Brandon Isom, better known as Leonis, and here we are with the first LA Valiant match of the season, and they are coming out of the dugout here, led by my man Custa. Big fan of his, been following his career for the last 2 years. I'm known as his best sub, quote unquote. Don't tell anybody that. And it looks like we've got a very interesting starting lineup here from the Valiant. I did not expect this. So we've got Space, Kariv, Agility's Fate, and then Izayaki and Kuki. Now these are two names that weren't seen last season. Kuki's a brand new addition to the team, and in the past he's played tank. So that is an interesting start. I've heard some rumors that he's going to be starting this on support, specifically. Usually LA Valiant runs Custa as their main support, but it looks like that they've gone through and done some rehashing of their roster. For example, Kariv is now a DPS player, and he will likely be filling that either Zarya or Brigitte role. I can't honestly tell you at this point. I have no idea what's been cooking on the LA Valiant roster. Here we have the Hangzhou Spark coming in. Their first match of the season was, in fact, yesterday. It was a very interesting match against the Shanghai Dragons. They were able to pull out the first official Chinese team win in the Overwatch League after the 0-40 run of the Shanghai Dragons last season. A lot of Shanghai Dragons fans, including me, were upset that they did not get that one win. But the Shanghai Dragons are going through a lot of internal issues, as per normal for the Shanghai Dragons. So, but they added Gamsu to their tank lineup, and he's honestly a massive pickup that I don't think anybody saw coming. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so back to Hangzhou Spark here. So they are a wild card, absolutely. They are absolutely a wild card, and they're going to put up a challenge for LA Valiant. I love LA Valiant to death, but this is going to be a close match. I have a gut feeling, especially because of this man right here, IDK. He is absolutely nuts on support. I couldn't stop watching him during that last match that they had against Shanghai. And then they do have a bit of a dark horse here in Gushua. I don't think he's got the synergy yet. I think No Smite probably feels a little more comfortable on this roster than Gushua does. But Gushua has raw, insane tank talent, and as a tank player myself, main tank provides such a valuable asset to the team, and Gushua's talent, as he showed in the Overwatch World Cup Chinese team, was nuts. Alright, okay, we got our first POV, or we've got our first cams here of the LA Valiant squad. We got my boys Space and Kariv. Kariv is absolutely nutty. If you've never seen an LA Valiant game before, and you have the All Access Pass, check out Kariv if you get the chance. I'm going to be doing a lot of jumping back and forth between players, and I'm going to definitely be on Kariv, mostly because his role has been changed up for this season. He's going to be on DPS. He has played mostly support for this roster. There was a stint during Stage 3 of last season where he was on DPS, but in their last stage, LA Valiant's most successful stage, where they won the stage playoffs, the Stage 4 of last season, he was on support, and that support core of Custa and Kariv was insanely powerful. But that is missing. That is one thing that is missing from this lineup here, and it's a questionable decision, because I personally thought that one of their key victory elements was that support core of Kariv and Custa, with Custa's leadership and shot calling, along with Fade's shot calling. Alright, so we're jumping into this now. I'm going to pop in here to Fate's POV. So it looks like they're rotating left. It looked like they were going to start going right, but a call was made to rotate left here. So this is a thing, a big Reinhardt thing. Playing corners like that to avoid showing your entire hitbox, but also getting that cleave damage in. And it looks like he was not able to survive that initial push from Spark here, and Spark take the point. Now, the thing about this point is it's extremely hard to take back. It's a very small point, and if the holding team can rotate enough around this point without giving into the oncoming team, they can hold this team all the way to 99% before they even feel contested. Okay, so we've got LA Valiant. They're rotating around this drum here, and it looks like Gushua got pushed in here, and his Shatter got mostly blocked. We've got Izayaki getting the final blow on Godsby. The whole team kind of dove back on Godsby when he got displaced, and Izayaki and Kariv. Now, Kariv's on the Zarya. I mentioned this earlier. I wasn't sure what Kariv was going to play. I was pretty sure it was Zarya. Zarya in this meta is typically being played by the main DPS player, the player with the best tracking skill, that have been playing Tracer, Widowmaker, and I personally believe Kariv is probably the best hit scam player on this team now that they don't have soon after he's been traded to the Paris Eternal. So I'm interested to see Kariv's Zarya. Didn't see that a whole lot last season. Goats has really only just become a meta in the last year, so the last 6 or 8 months. So I've not really been able to see live Zarya play with Kariv a whole lot. So let's actually keep following Kariv here. Like I said earlier, I'm really interested in seeing where he goes with this. So he's chucking mortar strikes in. That's a big part of Zarya's kit, accurate mortar strikes to try and get that ult charge. But he's already sitting on a grab. So we'll see here how well Kariv can manage this grab. It's the most difficult thing of Zarya. I'd say managing projected bubbles and grabs are the most difficult thing of playing Zarya. I have quite a bit of hours on Zarya. It's not my main role, but it's a character I love to play. I made an alt account just to play more Zarya. Alright, so he's pushing it all the way back to squishy targets to get that damage in, but it looks like Fate and Yuki on the Lucio and Agilities get caught out there by Godsby's grab, so that's going to be it for them. Kariv is going to try to get away because he's got all that energy, but he goes ahead for the reset. Not exactly something I would have done. I'm not going to claim to be a good Zarya at all, but I think one of the main things that Zarya players try to do is maintain their charge. But there must have been a call to full reset there. It's a shame because now Kariv is not toting that charge. I'd say about this point, if he would have survived, he would have had about 40% charge, just based on the decay, and could have easily jumped back up to 60 and then 80 with 2 good bubbles. So 60 and then could have jumped up to 80 and then 100 with 2 good bubbles. So alright, Kariv's grab actually gets eaten. This has not been a very comfortable round for Kariv on Zarya, and it looks like this is going the direction of the Spark, sadly. That play, their win condition here was the grab. They're also going to lose that round with Kuki's sound barrier. It is a shame. Sometimes those you wish you would have had that one last ult. Maybe that would have given you a chance, but here's the replay here. We'll see what happens. Okay, Space gets Bozzy, but then a huge bomb comes from Rhea. So this was something that was standout about Rhea in the match between Shanghai and Hangzhou. His bomb placements have been pristine. Like, he's been getting these perfect angles on D.Va bombs to find 3, 4 kills. And I thought maybe it was a fluke because Shanghai's tank lineup was not the most experienced. They had some people flexing on tank on that team, and I thought maybe it was a bit of a coincidence that Rio was getting such good bombs, but it looks like against a more veteran team, Rio can still pop off on that D.Va. Alright, so this first fight here, it looks like we're starting off with a lot of good initial frags, and it's just supports here on the point with a baby D.Va. So that's going to be a pretty clean wipe from the Valiant. I'm going to jump over now to check out Fate's point of view, because the main tank's point of view is very interesting. I think a lot of people doubt how effective they can be on main tank just by existing, and you know, Fate being here in this top corner is a lot of pressure, just because he exists. Like, the idea of playing main tank is to make space, and a way Winston makes space is by existing in an area that disrupts the enemy teams, like their movement, their ability to coordinate, because the Tesla cannon coming from Winston puts out a lot of cleave damage, and it can be very dangerous on supports. Like we see here, just that little bit of damage between Kriv and Fate was enough to take out Bozzy, and that's the whole idea behind playing Goats. It's the tanks can put together, do a whole host of damage, and they don't die. So it's insanely powerful if you have your team completely coordinated to do these pushes with these 3 tanks, getting that damage from both the Zarya, the D.Va, and the Winston on one target. The Zenyatta is an easy target for this. The Lucio is a little more difficult. He's a little more evasive and harder to track down with the Winston's Tesla cannon. It's a lot easier to damage him with D.Va because of her scan. Okay, so we've got Fate getting caught out in between the members of the Spark. I'm gonna go ahead and swap to the main stream here to see what is happening with this fight. So we got a big pin from Gushua onto Agilities, and that is going to be a decisive win here. Now, in Overwatch, there's this little thing called rubber banding. It's when a team reverses kind of the pull of advantage, and that's usually done by ultimates or by getting that one frag that you need. And by taking Fade out early, taking the main tank out early, one, that totally throws off the team, because once the main tank is out, their point of engagement is gone, and if your main tank's still there, you just go. You go straight into the fight. You have this wall between you and the other team, and their team doesn't have a wall, so you start poking in damage. Zarya can freely beam down anyone who's in front of her, and so can the D.Va. The D.Va can missile shoot. It's just impossible in this meta to win fights without a main tank unless you have some powerful ultimates. And here we go, my man Space. Let's see from his perspective here. Okay, as I switch to him, he's demeched, but I don't know if you saw there just a moment ago, as that grab was coming out, Space snatched that right up. We got the crowd of LA Valiant going absolutely nuts. I love the LA Valiant squad. Hashtag we are 7. We got Briggsy there, hyping everybody up. So if anybody from the LA Valiant squad is watching this, here's to you guys. We are 7. Wings out. I try.
Some of the crucial plays that keep Valiant alive in this map.
All right, so that's 1-1. Now control maps are absolutely nuts. If you've been paying attention at all, just this season, some absolute nutty things have come out in control maps. They're not a very good gauge on how the rest of the match is going to go, because of how different they are structurally to every other map on the rotation. There is a lot of chaotic brawling that happens because the maps are so centralized, and the spawns are equal in distance, so you typically have no respawns coming in per fights, and whichever team is able to get that advantage quick wins that fight. So we've got space here. He's spacing out, ironically, the enemy team. He's staying at these angles where he can still get damage in past that barrier from Gushua, but it looks like he's going to get demeched here. Members of his team have backed off or have been sent back to the spawn room. It's always the diva. It's kind of always the diva's job to either be the last man on point or the one with the most point presence. And Space is excellent at controlling points. He's one of the all-stars on this team. When he came in and replaced Envy, I wasn't sure how good he was going to be. I knew of him from Arc 7, Arc 6. My bad, Arc 6. The team that he played on with Custa, Dante, Agilities in Contender Season 0. So I followed him back then, but I mean, he's still kind of a new face to me. So when he came into this team, and he's just been performing stellarly for this team. So they get caught in a grab out here from Godsby, which is going to slow down their push. So Spark has dominated point presence and controlling, gaining percentage rapidly. So we've got some ultimates here on the Valiant side. We've got 2 support ults and we've got a grab. Now, if we can get this grab out, Fate will be able to swing into it and possibly get a shatter and follow this up. Now, I'm going to pop over to Kriv here, that way we can watch and see his point of view. Okay, so he sees Rhea turn around, and that's his moment. That's his moment right there to get that grab out, and they start getting frags. So this is going to be a pretty clean win right here for Valiant, but they've saved 4 ults. That's the most important thing right here. When you win on control map in this kind of 90% situation, you want to have ultimates left, because if you don't, you lose the next fight unless you're able to farm more. Now right here we see Kriv kind of trying to get some more percentage. He's already back to 30% due to some of his mortars and damage he did at the end of the last fight. If he can get back to another grab quickly by the time the next fight happens. Okay, so that's a clean shatter coming out of Fate. Taking out IDK, it may not seem like a lot, but taking out the Lucio for the enemy team really shuts down their ability to retreat. And so when that Lucio goes down, likely the call came out, go, 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 to get in there and start getting those frags, because they can't go anywhere. Kuki's on Lucio, he's alive. Their Lucio's dead. You go in and you just crush them, because once they see that they lost their Lucio, they're gonna try to back out, and you lose when you start pressing S and the other team's pressing W. Alright, so we're backing up here on the Valiant because Kriv just got his grab and they want to get them into a good spot. Okay, so this... So, okay, the Shatter came in to counter the grab from Kriv, and there was nothing to block it, and it knocked down most of the Valiant there, and Rhea drops the perfect bomb, just right smack dab on the angle needed to cover the entire Valiant roster, and we get a huge clear-out bomb from Rhea. That is part of what makes GOATs so powerful. You may look at GOATs and be like, where's the damage? Not a lot of people expect D.Va and Zarya to do a lot of damage unless they're really familiar with those heroes, and the reality is that that's completely wrong. D.Va and Zarya do insane amounts of damage, almost to the point that I'm surprised the Blizzard team hasn't done anything about it. But, you know, the philosophy of this game is that each character is supposed to feel powerful. Unless you're, you know, Mercy. JK. So the idea of this game is that all of the heroes are supposed to, you know, have some kind of carrying potential. And Zarya and D.Va have insane amounts. So that's where a lot of this damage is going to come from, because you have, if you're running Zen and you have the Discord orb on just jumping from target to target, whichever target your team is focusing on, D.Va and Zarya's damage is no joke. It's going to kill fast. And that's not even counting Rhein's massive cleave damage. I mean, base without any boosts, it's 75 damage a hit. You swing a Rhine hammer into a Grav, you're doing a lot of damage. Okay, so we're jumping in here. I'm going to pop back over to Fate here. I promise I won't stay on the tanks the entire time. I'm a tank player, so I'm really interested in how fights start when it comes to tanks. Because it's kind of an art form of taking engages. It's a little more straightforward than just Rudy Tooty Shooty that you see in a lot of first-person shooter games. So, alright, so we're going up here, kind of a traditional vanilla approach that a lot of people I'm sure see in their ranked games, of just taking that high ground initially. Now Bazzi got caught out. That's really interesting that Bazzi wasn't able to. A lot of these professional Sombras are able to just flash right out of there. But he seemed to not have been prepared for Fate right there. So Fate is currently on this Zen. He doesn't have a lot of backup here, it seems, and Bebe got pocketed by IDK. Now, IDK is on this Mercy, and the Mercy healing is not as strong as it used to be. It does 50 healing a second, whereas Winston's damage is 60 a second without any boosts. So eventually Winston's going to get the kill, but it looks like Bebe was able to put out just enough damage to take down Fate, which is unfortunate. So we're coming down here right out of the cafe on the bottom. We've got Fate jumping up top. So I'm going to pop in, and we're going to follow Izuyaki for a while. We're going to see... So he's backed up, and then this is a smart spot to be for a support, when you're attacking. So it looks like we had a EMP come out, and it luckily did not touch Izuyaki. That's why this is such a powerful spot to be in. You have that wall where you can cut off LOS from powerful ults like EMP, and just general LOS from snipers, from... specifically, the sniper in this meta would be the other Zen, so you can cut off LOS by hiding in that, by rotating around in that, and taking that spot from the defenders. Typically, defenders aren't gonna necessarily hold there, but if they do, you want to take that spot as an attacker. It's a strong space to be. So the issue I'm seeing right here from the Valiant is they have one ultimate. But they actually have a better economy than Hangzhou in this start of this fight coming up here, because Izuyaki has Transcendence now, so if they need it, they can survive this fight no matter what. They're not going to lose that fight, especially since Agility's popped Rally that gives him a speed boost and armor to the entire team. Agilities is just going to cleave through the entire Hangzhou Spark team on Brigitte. Once Brigitte gets moving quickly with her own speed boost and that Lucio speed boost, she can go to any target she wants to in this meta and just start putting damage onto them with her cooldowns and her Alright, so we've got Izayaki popping that ultimate. Now, we get a mirror one coming out of Bebe, which is actually really bad for the Valiant. You always want to be the second Zen to ult. You never want to be the first Zen to ult. Alright, so Space actually catches Bebe and Creed catches Rhea, which is actually winnable. Because taking the D.Va out of the fight is usually a pretty huge indicator that they're... Now, as I say that, it looks like Gushui was able to make just enough space for their team to take some of those frags from LA Valiant, taking down Kariv there. Izayaki was able to back off, save from feeding any extra ult charge. It's a hard call to make, because once you get those trades like that, especially with some so random trades, like the D.Va Bomb catching people like that. Now Space is brilliant, but sometimes D.Va Bomb is a bit of a random factor. Now, Fate landed right there, a perfect Earth Shatter to catch out Gushua there, and Izayaki was able to follow up quickly. The thing with goats is there's a couple win conditions. The first win condition is typically to make more space than the other team playing goats, control more. Another win condition is have the living Rhine. Have the Rhine that's alive, because he's such an important part of this composition. And once Hangzhou loses their Rhine, it's kind of just a cleanup fest. Alright, so we got mirror trances here. One coming out of Izayaki and one coming out of Bebe. That kind of stops the fight, I'm not gonna lie, unless you have an Ana on the other team that can hit. So, alright, Space, or as soon as I start paying attention to Fate, Fate starts popping off. So, let's jump back to Fate here. He landed a massive Shatter, which got them some space in that team fight, but it looks like I've cursed Fate, because he's getting pushed real hard by Hangzhou. Maybe I don't stay on Fate and he does better. But speak of the devil, as soon as I look away, they're able to clean up the front line of Hangzhou and just pursue. That's
made it so they're nearly able to close out this map.
Yeah, look at this Valiant just kind of giving a bit of ground again to Spark as they come out of spawn. Valiant just playing this so patiently. I love it.
Okay, so there's Gushua. He's kind of in a weird spot here. I would have expected Gushua to push a little further, but I feel like they were definitely waiting to see if that grab would come out. Kariv doesn't end up even needing the grab. Defense here on Numbani is actually an interesting thing. You can run several things on this Numbani first point. It looks like LA Valiant are going to stick to the 3-3 goats comp, whatever you want to call it.
Is that right? Is that where you
Very well studied, always.
So you can sometimes run almost in any meta some kind of hit scan on this point just because of how open it is, but this meta makes it really difficult out of every one of them, because hit scan can almost be kind of nullified by the existence of just tanks in general. So we're starting up here with Fate. Now he's holding this corner here. This kind of gives him two angles that he can Tesla. Okay, so as soon as they get up, he's gonna start cleaving straight through everybody on the Hangzhou, and there we go. We take down Bazi. Now that's the thing with Brigitte. It feels good to be aggressive as Brigitte because you have your own healing and then you have the healing from the rest of your team, but you are squishy. Like you aren't Reinhardt, you aren't you don't have kind of that extra 250 health that you can feed, you can die fast as Brigitte. It doesn't feel like it when you're playing her, but you really can. And it looks like they're able to catch Bozzy out and get that first frag on him. It's happened a couple times in this matchup so far. Now they're staying set up here because I think they trust their ability to get that damage off. You kind of run into an issue when you come up this as an attacker, where you're essentially putting yourself in such a tight choke, and it's so easy to cleave that doorway right there with Winston and D.Va and Zarya, just so much damage. So we've got Fate primaling here. Right now he's just trying to space out their backline. He's looking to farm some ult charge, but it looks like he's going to feed some instead. It looked like he didn't quite mean to drop down right there. That may have been just some map geometry getting in his way, which often happens as for a Winston player. Either that ledge was just slightly too high for your jump, or you yeah.
I think this is a better idea.
Okay, so they're rotating to that spot that I mentioned earlier, Hangzhou Spark is, but it looks like they were able to take out Godsby before Bebe could get that trance out. And sometimes when you trance, you can get that trade and you can fix that, but it doesn't look like Hangzhou is able to fix that push. Losing Godsby on that Zarya was just too much of a deficit. They lose so much damage when Zarya goes down. Like I said earlier, Zarya is the primary damage dealer in this comp. Once you get that charge, I don't know if you were watching the Paris Eternal VOD or not earlier, but Soon had so much charge, and that's something. You get that 100 charge on Zarya, and you do more damage than most DPS heroes, believe it or not. So Fate is going to chase down Bozzy because he is completely sure that his team can handle the tanks of Hangzhou Spark over there. I am going to swap off of Fate now because I feel like I've been on him for a hot minute. Let's pop over to Kuki here. We haven't given him a lot of screen time, but the main support along with the main tank, probably the most important cogs in the entirety of a comp. So part of why Lucio is so strong in this comp is because of his ability to AoE heal and speed boost, which keeps the comp moving. Now it looks like Kuki is aware that they're losing this fight, and he's going to try and get behind the Hangzhou Spark over here to look for some kind of frag, and now he got some damage off on Bozzy, and he saw Bozzy was low, but he was not able to finish off Bozzy. Bozzy was able to get back far enough away from Kuki where that damage was mitigated. So it took a long time for Hangzhou to take this, which is very good for the Valiant, because if they reset properly here, point 2 is hell. It's just incredibly difficult to get through. You see in a lot of these pro games where point 2s on maps are pretty easy, but if you can get a proper defense here and get the payload right where you want it, you have such a good you can have such a good hold here on 2. And I think that's what the Valiant were preparing for, but it looks like the Ushui popped Primal and was able to get some space for his team. But look at the top left corner. We've got almost full ult spread for the LA Valiant team. The only ult we're missing is Fate's. But if you can get a good grab, you can charge up Fate's Earth Shatter for the next fight, which it will be really important with where they're stopping them. They'll want to have an ultimate like Earth Shatter ready for the next fight. I believe wholeheartedly that they're going to take this fight. Now Space is getting tons of damage off on Godsby. I can tell that that was who they called out to go for. Zarya is a really easy member of this comp to take out. Because you can dive on the Zarya, and if their personal barrier is gone, they just have 400 HP. It's less than Winston and D.Va, and sometimes that makes the difference. Not only that, the Zarya can shift the fight just from getting a frag, so it's one target that you want to make sure you have complete and total awareness of the entire fight. Alright, so here's a counter bomb coming out of space, which sometimes is a good thing to do against another D.Va bomb, because what a lot of teams use D.Va bombs for to damage the grab, but also for space. Not the player, but the physical space. So what you can do is you can counter bomb back and deny that space. So they have to run away instead of running in and doing damage like they originally intended to. So LA Valiant win that. That space was totally under control of LA Valiant. That was a huge play out of space in my opinion by counter bombing that. It slowed down the Hangzhou Spark from taking advantage of their grab that they had. So this is looking to be a very interesting match. Hangzhou Spark are kind of an interesting team, new expansion team coming into this. They have some very good players in my opinion.
The perfect spot.
This is funny. So I was gonna compare Rhea to Poco earlier, but I thought it's not really like Poco. What's the difference? And he kind of just laid it out there for me. Poco like launches these D.Va bombs almost in these perfect angles, like he's been practicing it for days and days at a time, which I'm sure he did at first until he got like every map angle down. He slides it off the wall into almost this perfect angle on covering maps. I remember there was one specifically from Oasis that was just absolutely nuts that I remember to this day, where he covered almost the entire map perfectly with the D.Va bomb. So yeah, Rhea is just kind of like dropping them in these ideal positions and getting frags. I'm still convinced that this is like almost coincidental, that these are accidental, just because like with Poco, he launches them at these angles. It seems so calculated, but then I'm watching Rhea and the bomb just drops and then bam. 4 frags, 3 frags.
Pretty good for the Valiant. You see, Bazzi comes in, he gets the bash.
I'm gonna have to take a lot more
this is actually a really good
looks at Rhea's bombs to see if I can figure out kind of the madness behind it.
Try and use his bubble to prevent some healing, but the Spark just stays so close together that they don't deny any of that. They bump him out of the bubble.
Yeah, see, this is an interesting thing coming out here.
It's actually a really good read by the Valiant and Fate specifically to see that some of those cooldowns were down, but it was just really nice counterplay from the Spark to stay grouped together. And then once
a barrier is really strong in this meta
for the Spark. You can't lose that main,
especially Winston's barrier.
It's worth noting as well that
because the way healing works in this game is there's only one healer that can heal through barriers, and that's Mercy. The healing stream from Mercy's beam doesn't get cut off by barriers or anything like that. But every other healer in the game, their healing gets cut off by barriers, like Orisa's barrier, Winston's barrier, Reinhardt's barrier. If you have a Lucio and you have a Brigitte trapped inside of a barrier, the people on the outside of the barrier are not getting healed. That's one way to slow down some of that oppressive healing coming out of the GOATS comp, by dropping a barrier and trying to get a frag real quick on the people who are outside the barrier. And that looks like what Fate was trying to go for there. But as we saw from what Mr. X said just a second ago, wasn't quite as planned, but when they backed up, they saw some of those cooldowns come out, and they were able to re-engage on the enemies that had used their cooldowns. So, really quick flexibility coming out of LA Valiant.